There are things that shouldn't be seen. Often said my late grandmother, and that was quite true. So this is a visual novel called Phenomeno. I know literally nothing about it other than it is a horror, and the art is done by Yoshitoshi Abe, and this is the English patch, because I don't think it was ever officially released in English, so hopefully the translation isn't garbage. I was drawn to the occult from childhood, and upon entering university I learned the truth of those words by stepping many times into the edges of the netherworld. Ghosts, beings which no one can decisively determine whether they exist or not. The story that begins here revolves around stories brought forth by them. In this story, it can also be said to be true of it and I. As its eyes glimmer in front of strangeness, as it breathed out words with a bedazzled expression, it warped the world that I always believed in. It made me anxious of whether the ground I stood on would shake. I would want to look over my shoulder just by listening, and I grew to fear whether someone were peeking from the dark shadow of the door. Maybe it was because the words it spoke included truths about the other side. It included truths that only applied to the scant, grotesque, waning, dead ones. Now, after it has disappeared, do I finally know that. As grandmother said, it was a world that I should not have seen. It was a story that was not for the living person. However, I intend to speak of that. I intend to speak about all of that. Because if I don't, it wouldn't be able to rest in peace. Because it, having lived on the edge of darkness, having struggled through the threshold of darkness, would not be able to live in peace. Yes, I'll say it once more. From here on, is a story that shouldn't be known. Okay, that didn't make much sense. Then again, I'm assuming that to be like a prologue or preamble or whatever. So maybe it shouldn't make sense at the moment other than, ooh, tone setting. Case 1? Okay. Hey, Mother. The beings called ghosts existed in this world. Would it ever be possible for someone to prove their existence such that no one anywhere could argue otherwise? I think it would be impossible, no matter how much humanity evolves. On the flip side, it also means no one anywhere could prove irrefutably that they do not exist. From that standpoint, to discuss whether ghosts exist or not is a complete waste of time. Fucking yeah! I agree with that. That's why people who can emerge victorious from such a discussion must be people who can purely enjoy ghosts as a source of entertainment. Indeed, I fall under that group. You could call me quite bluntly as an occult maniac. Mother may not know, but this is quite a niche existence in the world. To be of my age and go ghost this, you may that. Oh, okay. I'm just reading bad. I know that people laugh at me, at people like me, but you know, there are plenty of things in the world that are inexplicable. Yes. For example, the house I'm living in. This old, almost 30-years old building is by the side of the Tamagawa waterworks. Partly because it's located in such an odd place, has an incredibly low rent. When I came to Tokyo this spring, I looked for a cheap apartment and found this place. It takes 10 minutes of biking to reach a convenience store. It's around. Why is the music so spooky when all we're doing is talking about a house? It's surrounded by darkness and covered by a thick what? I've never seen that word. And because there are no streetlights in the area, it's completely dark at night. However, I enjoy this old building. It was built like an old mountain cottage, as the first floor was a garage and the second and third floors were a blowout. So it was more than luxurious for a person living alone. That sounds nice! The kitchen was as cramped as a kitchenette, but it had a living room, a Japanese-style room, a bath, and even an atelier. From what I hear, an architect had designed it as a personal workplace. I liked it at first sight. Furthermore, for a place with a bath, to be just 30,000 yen in Tokyo Musashino was unthinkably rare. And it even came with an oral story that could not be ignored. Ooh, it sounds haunted. This is a house that grants wishes. So said the smiling real estate agent who introduced this place to me. The architect who built this became famous. The illustrator who moved in became busy and moved closer to the city. And the young couple that was living here until last month gave birth to a baby, which led to this becoming open. You are quite lucky. After hearing that, who wouldn't immediately seal the deal? So, I jumped at the opportunity. There was probably a feeling of superiority too, given that my colleagues at university pay over twice the rent and live in rabbit cages. In any case, I was quite pleased at how lucky a man I was with my first time living alone. Damn, that sounds nice! Yet, within a month, I realized how big of a mistake that was. Why is it? Because it's creaky as fuck. I can hear sounds somewhere when I'm sleeping at night. The squeaking of something persistently attempting to open some old door. I'd assumed it was just some bad structuring somewhere, but I soon realized that it was odd that it always happened at 2 a.m. I tried going to the living room from my bedroom at the edge of the second floor, and the sound would stop. I thought maybe it was coming from above, and went to the atelier on the third floor. But there was nothing that could be the source of the sound. I'd planned to eventually organize it to be cooler, but at the moment, it was a bare environment with just my desk and a bookshelf. I looked around, but the windows were all shut, so there was nothing to make a sound. After that, I went to the toilet and the bath. However, I could not find anything that could be connected to the sound. So I thought maybe I'm just hearing things and went to sleep again. But the sound started again. Squeak. The sound of old wood groaning. Man, this is more than just squeaking, man. I could also hear the sound of something scraping. It wasn't like a mouse or a cat. It was an eerie sound, like something trying to crawl out of somewhere dark after having been tormented for a long time. Eventually, that sound stopped, seemingly echoing throughout the house, and felt like it was seeping through the atmosphere around my ear. As a result, I began keeping the lights on throughout the house and using earplugs when sleeping. However, the problem stopped being just sound. It was about 2 weeks ago. I found a decisive thing. I found 7 carved into the wall of the landing of the stairs with something sharp. It's probably just some kids with chalk. I immediately checked the doors and windows around the house, but there didn't seem to have been anyone entering. I was probably terrified. It's a pretty big engraving. I was forced myself to think I had just never noticed it before. A few days later, though, I found near the bathtub 6. Something sharp and carved it into the windowsill. And a week ago, I found near the toilet 5. And even this easygoing person had to believe it. Something was in this house, and that this was some countdown. I immediately jumped out of the house. I couldn't live in the house anymore. Hadn't made any close friends yet at university, so I lived in karaoke boxes and the net cafes for several days. Couldn't talk about this to anyone. I didn't know any monks, nor any mediums. Then I realized, right, maybe the people from Ikaigabuchi edge of the netherworld would be perfect for discussing this with. Is that some forum? The colleagues of mine who were also into the occult world may believe me. And so, incidentally, there aren't suspicious people at all. No, we are plenty serious, suspicious, huh? I recoiled at the sudden voice from above. Oh, hey there. When I looked up, I saw Karasu's white face. She was waving her hand. Yo, Nagi. Karasu, since when were you there? I checked the time on my cell phone. It was 10:30 p.m. There's still 30 minutes until the offline meeting taking place at 11. Right around when you began explaining the house that grants wishes to your mother. It's basically the start. I complained as I grumpily placed my stationery back in my bag. Back my bag. Okay. Sorry, but you know, peeping is like our trade, you know, said Karasu as she smiled cutely. This was a family restaurant near Ichikai Road. We were going to have an emergency offline meeting here with the members of an occult site I frequent. And of course, Karasu wasn't her real name. It was a handle that she used online just as I, Yamada Nagito, go by the name Nagi. She went by Karasu. This was the third time we'd met. I still didn't know her real name. However, she was a veteran on the Ikai Gambuchi site, and thus a big senior to me, who'd only begun looking at the site this spring. Oh, I like your style, girl. Her appearance was as usual, purplish velvet dress that reached her ankles, and below that was just the black camisole, or rather, her chest was completely bare. Her breasts looked like they would jump out at any time, which made her looking at her awkward. However, this was her uniform of sorts. Quite early. Did you close shop early today? I asked. Pretty much. Fortune tellers don't have much to do when there are no customers. She took off the stole she was wearing and sat down across from me. Now, I'm not familiar with clothing. I don't know if stole is a real thing or if that's a typo or something. I don't know. But you know, to put it frankly, she played with the skull-shaped accessory shining at her breast as she looked at me. Your house probably has nothing to it. What? What was it? Right. Schema? Schema? Am I saying that right? Some word used in cognitive science. If you keep thinking you're scared, and you start seeing faces in the ceiling. That sort of thing. Because you were hearing squeaking every day, you began seeing numbers from the scratches that always were in your house. Seriously. Seriously. I mean, you came to Tokyo alone from some super ruralness in Shizuoka. And this is the first time you're living alone, right? And then you're living in an old wooden house alone. Not too surprising. I appreciate this clearly occult person being a skeptic. Until probably later proven that it's probably ghosts. But I do appreciate that she is being like, let's give a rational thing first before we start going down this rabbit hole of ghosts. I used to live in a house that groaned and squeaked a lot, so I know how you feel. It's like the sound of saran wrapping, so it's pretty discomforting. So she said, as she raised her hand to order beer from the waitress. Well, wait then. This was just me being a wuss, then. What should I say to the occult veterans that were coming to the offline meeting? Would they get banned from the wonderful site for being an airhead in just one night? Ah, don't worry about it, she laughed. We're a bunch of folk that love meeting and trading shady stories. But it shouldn't be that simple. There are about 10 people coming to this meeting. Then Karasu said, huh? And looked at me. Bet and looked? And what? This meeting. I think over 30 people are showing up. Damn! I hurried access to my Ikai Gabuchi offline meeting board through my cell phone, then opening the House That Grants Wishes investigation thread, and was taken aback. You're right. Why the numbers suddenly rocket? Are there that many people interested in the House That Grants Wishes? Dude, of course! People would love to be like, yo, this house actually grants wishes, let me sleep in there for a night. I want my wish. You could fucking, like, charge people to do that. Unfortunately, not at all. See, even the regular Sue and Zippo are coming to the meeting, right? They wouldn't move for some mere horror tale. So this must be a common thing that they probably heard before. She laughed at the expression. Well, not common, but I'm talking about they've probably heard cases about this specific house or area or whatever. She laughed at the expression I made as she plucked the phone from my hand and then played with it, and then she turned the screen to me. This, the fourth poster, going by the name Yoichi. I think this many people are showing up because this one announced their participation. Who was Yoichi? No idea. Said Karasu with a grin as she pulled out a cigarette. She lit the cigarette using a worn, slender lighter, and after blowing out a puff of smoke, quietly whispered. Those that meet Yoichi die 7 days later. What? There's more. Yoichi isn't a living person. Offline meetings that Yoichi attends end in terror. What else was there? What is that? Something like an urban legend that started being whispered around Ikaigabuchi. Yet no one's actually met Yoichi. No one knows if Yoichi's some old man, or even what gender they are. However, everyone who attends in a meeting that Yoichi goes to remains silent. The entire thread disappears. The participants stop going to Ikaigabuchi, or they die. Her low whisper felt like ice-cold water splashing down the back of my neck. On the other side, Karasu happily received her glimmering cup of beer and exclaimed, "Gah, delicious." What a lackadaisical tone. But those are just rumors, right? I asked. And she laughed. That's right. So basically, even if the house that grants wishes is a miss, there's the hope of Yoichi, so everyone's gathering for fun. So you don't have to fret about it anyway. She said, but I still felt mixed emotions. Till now, until today, I was trembling with fear alone, unable to go home, and I suggested today's offline meeting in the hopes of getting the opinions of the veterans of Ikaigabuchi. Having those four blown off immediately as my misunderstanding wasn't sufficient to quell my fears. However, if Yoichi has gotten interested, might the house that grant wishes be real? Who knows? I'm just interested in seeing how Yoichi-kun's appearance changes a horror story that doesn't interest me into something more eerie. Doesn't interest. Damn, if it still bothers you, Ikaigabuchi has a page for investigating haunted areas. You can request an investigation, although I still think you'll just end up being laughed at. She laughed as she quickly finished her beer. Damn, it's pretty straightforward with the, yeah, you're gonna look pathetic. Indeed, the Ikaigabuchi site did routinely checked out haunted areas around the country regardless of fame. That one seems a bit off. That sentence. After investigation, haunted areas were graded on a scale of A to D, with A being called the most dangerous of spots. This rating was very unique in that famed areas such as Masakado, Kubiduka, and Iwainari. Damn Japanese words. It takes a second for me to actually properly read it, and then I've got it. We're given a D rank by Ikaigabuchi. In other words, they were rated as the lowest level of danger. Supposedly it was because it had become an area that was evenly split, as humans and ghosts treated each other with respect. On the other hand, places given an A rank were often unknown to the common populace. Places such as crime scenes that involved murders brought forth by thick emotions such as infatuation, jealousy, isolated locales of death by seniors who maintained fanatic delusions, and so on. They say those places serve as lightning rods for souls that resented the current world, souls that had lost personalities and simply become clumps of malicious intent, far beyond saving. As I thought such things, Karasu had begun peering intently at my face. Hey, Nagi-kun. Yeah? You have the mark of a meeting. Yeah. And this is a girl. Seriously? My expression loosened at her words. Can you tell me a little more? She began playing with the skull-shaped accessory near her breast as she continued. How should I put it? It's a very dense meeting, like two souls previously split are reuniting, but she said, seemingly looking through me at a different world. It's hard to say if meeting this girl will actually result in happiness for you. What's that? And furthermore, huh? Wait, isn't she dead? Hey, isn't that like being possessed? You've got to be kidding me, I thought. I also remember that she would tell me such ominous things every time we met. Previously, she told me that I had a bicycle luck, and then I got hit by a mama cycle on the way back. And then she told me I had gold fortune. I was happy, but then I stepped on a gold-colored thumbtack at home. In other words, she was very good at presenting unfortunate things in a way that you can't tell is unfortunate, which is an important skill for a fortune teller, I suppose. You know, Katasu, if you're a fortune teller, shouldn't you also tell people how to avoid misfortune? I asked. But it's up to the person whether to think of something as unfortunate. She stuck out her tongue in a cute way and then shouted to the employee passing by, "Another beer, please!" As I sat there watching over her in a vexed manner, the door chimes sounded repeatedly, and suspicious-looking people filed in one after another. Seeing how they were coming over after noticing Katasu, I deduced they were people attending the offline meeting. Yo, Katasu, as beautiful as always. Long time no see to you too, Maru. So excited. You have such karmic dispositions. As such conversations continued, my seat in the back of the family restaurant slowly became surrounded by activity. Every now and then, I would see a familiar face. Most I'd never seen before. I'd actively been participating in offline meetings in Tokyo, and that I continued seeing new faces en masse. Each time made me realize how deep the world of the occult was. Yeah, there's a ton of people who find it interesting. And, like, there are plenty of stories that are interesting. I wouldn't say I'm deep into it, but I'm like, hey, occasional scary story is interesting. That's why I'm playing this. Just after 11, this group that had gathered at the back of the family restaurant with the odd interest had passed 30. Damn! Or rather, I picked the family restaurant figuring there'd be 10, so this was a pretty big transgression. The looks on the waitresses passing awkward smiles at me hurt. Are there more coming? Quietly asked Katasu, who was engaging in friendly chat with other attendees. And she was a bit blushed. As she responded, it's way too late now. There are a bunch of people who show up without saying anything, so there'll probably be a few more. That's problematic. This might scare away Yomishi too. He commented lightly, but seemed to really be troublesome. This might really be troublesome. So, which one's Yoichi? As expected, not even an hour passed before the conversation blew past the house that grants wishes. Damn. You're being ignored, and your issues are being just like, who cares? Where's Yoichi? Countless cult veterans crammed into the family restaurant. Each looked around them, frantically looking for the accursed Yoichi. Alright, I propose introducing ourselves, said the middle-aged man going by the handle Professor with his blushed face. Seeing empty beer mugs scattered around his table revealed how drunk this person was, and then in response others chanted, "Yeah, let's do it!" And one by one people stood up and gave a greeting. As at least half the participants were getting quite drunk, people began feeling less like occult maniacs and more of a complete drinking party. First, I'm Professor. My preferred area of cult are stories from people of post-trauma ethnicity. Second, I'm Rabbit. I love folklore about Ryomen Sukuna-sama. Third, I'm Harley. I get excited by stuff related to two parts. At the moment, I'm researching Voynich, what? Manuscripts. What are they going first, second, third for? Why are Rabbit and Harley both jumping on the wagon? They call maniacs very playful. And so they began introducing themselves one by one. This seems like a nice crowd of people. I'd hang with them. With incredibly loud volume, I alone seemed to be taking the brunt of the customers' glares from the rest of the restaurant. Seventh, Katasu. When she energetically stood up, a round of applause arose, and in response she began socializing every which way, so I gave up. Come to think of it, it should be said that every offline meeting for Ikaigabuchi turns out this way, and so it's like a trade of the site. Oh wow, real close up. You're Nagi-kun, it's your turn next, urged by Katasu. I begrudgingly stood up. 8. I'm Nagi. I'm a university student. What type of cult do you like? Like anything wonderful, right now things are related to ghosts. When I lightly responded to a question that had been flung at me, people began shouting, "You're too tightly wound! You need to drink more!" Someone ordered beer for me. Man, I'm still 18. I'm underage, I can't drink. Don't worry, I'll drink it. Just act like you're drinking and they'll be appeased, laughed Karasu as she smacked my butt with her palm. Well, in any case, the 30 or so people introduced themselves like this. In the conclusion, there was no one here who went by the handle Yoichi. Huh, so they didn't show up. I showed up to see Yoichi. Is anyone faking their handle? Said people one by one, but given that most people had never seen each other, and that offline meetings weren't particularly rare, it was hard to figure if anyone was lying. Well, since we've all gathered, can we discuss what the house that grants wishes is? I began, but Sue spoke over me. I think, an old veteran of Ikaigabuchi who managed a liquor store and liked collecting things like the arms of Tengu and the shell of Kappa, if I remember correctly. Maybe she might be a different handle of Krishna. I was sighing, but reacted to that name. That would make sense, someone responded. If we summarize the rumors involving Yoichi, if you deal with Yoichi, you'll have a terrifying end. Yoichi isn't a living person. Those that meet Yoichi die 7 days later. Something like that. But we've never heard any specifics of anyone dying, and maybe certain threads were disappearing because Krishna was secretly joining the horror area investigations, is what I think, anyways. I see, nodded even Karasu. Krishna hasn't been showing up lately either, so that makes sense. Wait, please, I chimed in. Krishna as in the administrator of Ikaigabuchi. Krishna, everyone's met him. Met him? Or rather, he's always showed up to meetings before. But he's not here today. You want to see him? Of course. The reason I became interested in the site Ikaigabuchi in the first place was being the person named Krishna was so fascinating. Of course, part of it was that I was interested in the occult from the start. There was a different sort of attraction with Ikaigabuchi. That was apparent, for instance, by looking at the odd words at the top of the page. Things that bother people also bother ghosts. From the start, Ikaigabuchi was a site intended to soothe matters between people and ghosts. Most people can't see ghosts. That's why, regardless of our lack of ill intent, that we probably bother ghosts more than they do us, was a perspective that was both fresh and unique. And as I read articles about renowned horror areas on Ikaigabuchi, my conviction deepened. Each article was filled with care toward ghosts, taking care to show respect toward both the living and the dead. I always wondered, why are people always afraid of ghosts? Perhaps some ghosts play tricks on people, while other ghosts say, "Come on, stop it," and are stepping in and intervening, yet no one ever thinks of that possibility. Maybe that sort of order is maintained by ghosts, and is why the vast majority of people live without ever being bothered by the supernatural. The paragraph struck a chord with me, in particular. These words moved me when I just arrived in Tokyo and hadn't met anyone I could call a friend. I realized more than ever that people were connected to other people through candor. It gave me courage that I could make do in Tokyo, where it's said that people's relationships with other people are often weak and diluted, where people try to avoid needless interaction with other people as much as possible. That was actually why I began participating in the site. I became attracted to the person named Krishna by their daily updates of the wonderful, his deep yet wide-ranging knowledge of the occult, his in-depth, cool writing style, the truth that could be felt from each and every word. These were all things I lacked, and were packed with things that my soul needed right then. I had gone to the point where I felt like Krishna had become like my brother and father in Tokyo. And if I could, I wanted Krishna to investigate the house that granted its wishes himself. How old is Krishna? What kind of person is he? Nagi-kun, you're stuttering. Calm down. Here, have a drink. Undeterred by the interruptions by Sue and others, I rephrased my question. Please tell me. How could I meet him? However, the response to my question was an awkward silence by the 30. I think he won't show up at an offline meeting again. Why? Some things happened. Some things? Well, eventually. You'll find out. Leave it be for now. I only received vague responses like that. What broke the silence at the family restaurant was Zippo, who I think worked as a programmer. I pose that opinion. That opinion? Asked Karasu, and Zippo pushed his thick glasses up and slowly answered. That Yoichi and Krishna are the same person. That thought. What do you mean? Actually, I know someone who's met Yoichi at an offline event. Really? The gathering immediately rose in unison. What sort of person? How old? Guy, girl, which offline? They all asked, and Zippo quietly answered. The offline meeting was for an investigation of an abandoned hospital in the Tama prefecture, about half a year ago. And what was Yoichi like? Well, I don't know. You don't know? Karasu asked, and Zippo swallowed once before answering. Because he's hospitalized. Hospitalized. Psychiatric ward. And with that, the excited gathering returned to silence. It was as if something heavy had descended upon the seats. Hospitalized in a psychiatric ward. Is that Yoichi's fault? Asked Sue, and Zippo slowly shook his head. I don't know, but even after regaining consciousness, all he mumbled is Yoichi. That's why I came to this meeting, because if Yoichi came, I wanted to ask, what happened at that offline meeting? Everyone fell silent when Zippo stopped speaking. And then, the family restaurant was filled once again with stories of Yoichi. Come to think of it, was the type of statement preceding conversations as one after another tales of Yoichi leaked out from people. If I were to summarize such topics, it seemed Yoichi infrequently appeared on the Ikaikabuchi forum. Its appearance was not common. Whenever it showed up, it would post in almost every thread, providing opinions on everything, regardless of how maniacal the topic. Given the time of appearance, Yoichi could be imagined as an occult maniac that was sitting in front of a computer almost 24 hours a day. It acknowledged the supernatural to rival Krishna, but their posts showed no signs of sharing the ghost love that defined Krishna. If anything, they could be described as more eerie, as if a dead person had eerily joined the internet. Maybe the rumors that Yoichi isn't a living person. They might be true after all, mumbled Jersey, who said he was a writer for a magazine. Remember that thread that popped up some time ago? I'm a ghost, but do you have any questions? Ah, the one where IP traces and PC and hosts all came up empty, so people wondered whether it was real? I'm of the opinion that ethereal forms have good synergy with computers and digital equipment, but you know, brainwaves are weak electrical signals too. You do hear a lot of tales of ghosts riding a line. Then, that Yoichi, mumbled Sue in a summarizing way. We can't see it, but is it already here? Those words sent a chill down my spine. Wait, down my sign?